Hello. Today I'm starting a series. We're going to do a series on knowing God. So, from the beginning, before the beginning, and so on. So, today we're going to start with Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Now, I don't read the Bible to have an academic knowledge of God. I read the Bible to develop a relationship with Him, and that's how we're going to approach this Bible study. So Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 reads, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The word God used there is the word Elohim, which is masculine plural for gods. Now, because I understand some native language, we have in some native language words like that is used for an adult is actually they. When you're referring to just one person, instead of saying you say they. So it doesn't mean that person is plural or you're talking to many people. It means that you're respecting the person by using a plural form. This is similar to the word Elohim. So it's a word that can be used for many gods, but is often used for God in its full plural form, gods, which is a mark of respect. So the next word there, God created, the word created there is bara, which means create, or can be translated creator, or to be created. And it refers to creating something out of nothing. But not only that, sometimes like in Psalm 51 verse 10, which says, "Creating me a clean heart, O God." Creating me a clean heart, which means refurbish or reform my heart or renovate my heart. So the word can be used for a renovation or something new completely out of nothing. So what was God before this in the beginning? Because we're looking at God. We're trying to understand the kind of being He is. The popular Psalm 90 verse 2 reads in the Complete Jewish Bible Version. That's a translation of the Bible. It said, "Before the mountains were born, before you had formed the earth and the world, from eternity past to eternity future, you are God." From eternity past to eternity future, you are God. And this Psalm 90 is accredited to Moses, is the only one actually accredited to Moses in our standard Bibles. So he said, "You are God, the mighty one." The word God in that particular verse is El, which refers to the mighty one with a title. So he said, God, you exist before you formed creation, before you formed the earth and the world. You existed from eternity past to eternity future. In that verse, some other translations say, from everlasting to everlasting. So this lets us know that the ancients, Moses' generation before his generation, had an understanding of God, that he is a being that pre-existed his creation, which does make sense because you can't be part of the creation and create the creation. So he said he existed, and they understood that he existed in a place outside the boundaries of time, a place called eternity. Eternity past, eternity future, eternity. So, and this is further strengthened in Psalm 93, as with many other scriptures. In verse 2, it reads in the New American Standard Bible, "Your throne is established from of old. You are from eternity." He's saying God hails, God issues, God comes, originates from eternity. And the word originate is not accurate because he has no origin. That's the meaning of eternity. So the New International Version is also similar to this. It said, your throne was established long ago. You are from all eternity. And the complete Jewish version says, your throne was established long ago. You have existed forever. You have existed forever. So we see that this God who pre-existed his creation was seen as intelligent in Proverbs chapter 3 verse 19. Now I'm just picking up some scriptures, but if you read throughout the scriptures, all the Bibles, the different books of the Bible, you realize that these things I'm pulling out were taken for granted, that everybody understood this, that God pre-existed creation, and also that he was intelligent. So let's read Proverbs chapter 3 verse 19. By wisdom the Lord laid the earth foundation. So he didn't lay this, he's not the kind of creature that laid the out of foundation just out of impulse. He laid the earth's foundation by wisdom. There was a thought behind it. He said, by understanding, he set the heavens in place. So it wasn't impulse. There was understanding. Understanding of the reason why the heavens should be and where they should be. By his knowledge, the watery depths were divided. So the waters were divided, separated, apportioned their places by knowledge. Now the words used in this, let me complete the reading of that verse. It said, by the knowledge, verse 20, the watery depths were divided and the clouds let drop the dew. So the words used were wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Now the Hebrew words are hokmah, tebuna, and dat. I might not be pronouncing them well. So the word hokmah means wisdom, skill, ability. So the word wisdom means ability, a thought process, an intelligent thought process. The word understanding means intelligence, discernment, knowledge. And the word dat is also, the word understanding means insight as well. Understanding, discernment, intelligence, and insights. Why should this thing be this way? Because he had insight that it should be that way. Knowledge, that means knowledge, competence. You know, the words we have used, competence, knowledge, skill, we can relate with them. And he said, I use the word knowledge, information. Why? Because if it pre-existed time, as the Hebrew translation of Psalm 90 says, he said, eternity, you existed from eternity past to eternity future. Meaning time is somewhere in between. So meaning, he had the full information before he started of what it was going to be, how it was going to be, and the purposes it would serve. And it's based on this, he created the earth. You know, what am I drawing at in this? The reason why the ancients could relate with God in the way they did was because they understood that they were dealing with an intelligent being, one that was knowledgeable, that was wisdom, one that had understanding, that could reason. Now let's look at an instance where God is reasoning. Job. The book of Job is very interesting because Job was pointed out as approved by God as a righteous person. So God approved and thought he was right in his ways because it conformed to the way of rightness that God had instituted in the earth. Now, I know you say, how did God institute it? Let's just read on. We'll go back to that. Job chapter 38 is God's reply, and it's something to ponder on. So do that in your own spare time. It said God's reply to Job's accusations. That's what Job chapter 38 is. And Job had accusations and contentions with God, and he poured out his heart without restraint. But all throughout, he had reverence for God. Now, God now directed his thoughts, Job's thoughts, in answering Job to his creation. So God directed Job to the creation as an answer. So I read some verses to you. Job chapter 38 from verse 1. This is God's speech. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. He said to Job, "Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me." So why is God speaking like that? That's how Job spoke to God. He demanded answers because he felt he was unfairly treated. And so God is demanding answers from Job, since Job thinks he knows a lot. He said, "Who is this?" I read again verse 2. "That obscures my plans." Means you thought you understood me, but you actually, in your words, shows you didn't understand my plans. With words without knowledge. Brace yourself like a man. You think you're a man? You know a lot? Stand up then and answer my questions. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. So God doesn't answer his direct questions. God points him to the majesty of creation to help him know his place, but not with anger. He's tutoring a child that thinks he knows. He said, "Tell me where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched the measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy." This is God speaking, and it's so beautiful. He said, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation?" Think, Job, think. Tell me if you understand. Who marked off his dimensions? So while this is a reply to Job, it tells you God's insight into how he created things. And by looking at this, we see how God thinks. He said, "Who is this that obscures my plans?" in verse 2. He has plans. Verse 4. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations?" The earth's foundations did not just appear, they were deliberately laid. Verse 5, who marked off its dimensions? There was dimensions. God actually knew the length he wanted each one to be. He was precise. Who stretched the measuring line across it? He executed the preciseness of his plans. And on what footings were set, and who laid its cornerstone? Its structure was designed. While all the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy. There was rejoicing. He's giving you behind the scenes insight that only the Creator has. The angels were singing for joy as the earth was created. Verse 8, who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness. He's telling you what happened as those things came to be. The sea burst out. It didn't just appear. the waters burst out from the womb. He's telling you the clouds were made his garment. There was a connectivity, there was a design to the whole thing. When the clouds came out, this thinking God, artistic God, insightful God made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thicker darkness. He's telling you, the earth, beyond the clouds, there is thicker darkness, deliberately. And when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and its bars in place, when I said, this far you may come and no farther, here is where your proud waves halt. He's telling you, he created creation to take pride in itself. Meaning, take pride in the beauty of God's masterpiece revealed in itself. So the proud waves were given boundaries, but they were able to rejoice in what they were. So when you see the sea churning up, know that he takes pride in its creation, his ability to churn up waves. Verse 12, have you ever given orders to the morning or shown the dawn its place? He's saying, I spoke to them. I spoke to the waves, to the sea. I said, this far you may come and no further. I gave orders to the morning, meaning everything I created has intelligence, or rather an ability to respond to me and understand me. Everything. That it might take the earth by the edges and shake the wicked out of it. So the creation was created with God's moral purposes behind it. They will shake out the wicked. They were created with the ability to walk against wickedness. Now, why am I pointing out these things? It tells you that the moral struck nature of God, he said, shaking out the wicked, the proud waves of the sea. He's saying dimensions, a thinking God, a God with a moral standard, a God that everything in his being is tied up and revealed in the processes of his creation. So when in Genesis chapter 1, he says, let there be, those declarations of word released the processes within God to start to take to place, to form the things that he has created in his heart according to their exact dimensions, the preciseness of how far they can go. There are purposes to preserve morality on the earth, God's moral standard on the earth. He had insight, understanding, information, skill, knowledge, all of this in the processes of his creation, according to Psalm 90 and Proverbs chapter 3, verse 19. Now I'll stop here and we'll continue in the next session. But the purpose of this is not for information, just so that it can stay in our heads, so that you can know. It is so that you can know, that you can relate with God. Because he's intelligent. He's understanding. He's relational. He has insight. He's competent and he's wise. And he takes pride and joy in his creation, which includes the planet. So this starts our exploration of the self-existent one, the eternal one, Yahweh, the God of Israel, the God of the nations, and the God of everything that exists. I'm Deborah. See you next time.